Welcome to the podcast Mining Matters, where you can dig a little deeper into developing your English speaking skills as a mining or minerals processing industry professional with me, Kirsten. Each month I will dive into one topical issue affecting the mining and the mineral processing industries. You can listen to a short discussion of the topic by me, and then I will explore some of the background of the vocabulary and the grammar that I chose to use. You can then develop your own discussion of the topic and use these examples to deepen your understanding and bring you closer to English fluency. Now you can choose to record yourself at home and keep the recordings as a record to observe your own improvement. Or you could join my speaking program, get some personal and private feedback from me, while joining in some lively and insightful conversations with other industry processing professionals. I promise you will see your skills transform in ways you never expected, while having fun. Now check out my website in the link for more information about the speaking program and to see if it is right for you. If it is not, I am glad you could join me anyway, and I hope you find the support and motivation you were looking for here. A healthy earth is dependent on healthy ecosystems. Economics, environmental health, and human well-being are interconnected. Without sustainable land use practices, humans can degrade the resilience of ecosystems by disrupting complex ecological processes. Environmental stewardship is important in establishing and maintaining sustainable practices to benefit local and federal lands. Sustainability and social responsibility are essential aspects of all mining operations as they have significant environmental, social, and economic impacts. So how are mining companies approaching environmental stewardship? On the BHP website it says, and I quote, "We acknowledge the nature of our operations can impact the natural environment. We also depend on obtaining and maintaining access to natural resources such as land and water. Our vision is to contribute towards global efforts to halt and reverse nature loss and collective goals on water security, environmental resilience, business resilience, and social value. Under our 2030 Healthy Environment Goal, we seek to create nature-positive outcomes by having at least 30% of the land and water we steward under conservation, restoration, or regenerative practices by FY 2030. And now let's move to the Rio Tinto website. I quote from their webpage, "Providing the materials the world needs means we have an impact on the environment. We work in remote locations and sensitive environments. Our activities have the potential to cause harm through pollution or land disturbance, and we have a significant carbon footprint. Our commitment to understanding and mitigating the risks and impacts of our operations extends from the very beginning of an operation's life to beyond closure. More immediately, we are accelerating action to reduce our carbon emissions and investing to help reduce emissions generated by the use of our products. We have an important role to play." So as you can see, both of these companies have a very clear position on protecting the environment. That includes the two principles from the previous podcast episode of minimizing the temporary disturbance of operations and maximizing the restoration at the end of mine life. But they do express them in a slightly different way. Now, I've worked for both BHP and Rio Tinto, and I can share that the processes that are used to manage the operations are quite similar. They are based on best practice guidelines that are in line with, if not exceeding, international and local regulations. They have strongly structured environmental standards and procedures that drive robust and holistic operational procedures. But has this met the objective of reducing or eliminating environmental harm? We'll take a look at that in the next podcast. Well, there was quite a lot of challenging vocabulary in that short podcast, wasn't there? That's actually what comes when you start talking very formally and about quite complex issues. So I do encourage you to listen again if you need to, and do some homework on those challenging words. If there are words that you didn't feel comfortable with and that I don't cover, I'm only going to cover a few, that you take the time to look them up, look up the synonyms, the antonyms, and really get a good understanding of each word, because they all have slightly different nuances and they matter when you use them. Now, one word, a very simple word that I want to look at is halt. Our vision is to contribute towards global efforts to halt and reverse nature loss. Now, halt is another way of saying stop. And if you can recall from the last podcast episode, we're talking very formal language here. Stop is less formal than halt. BHP are definitely using very formal language when they halt and reverse nature loss. They could have said prevent. Prevent is another option. Collective goals on water security. You may understand those words independently, but what is a collective goal? A collective goal is a goal that the community has together. Water security is a term used to discuss access to a large enough amount of water with a quality required for people to survive. So some countries do not have water security. They do not have access to large enough volumes of clean drinking water for the community to survive. So a collective goal on water security. And we use the word resilience. Resilience is one of my favourite words because I love the concept of resilience. But we talked about collective goals on water security, environmental resilience, and business resilience. So resilience is the ability to withstand the pressures. Okay? So environmental resilience is to make sure that the environment can withstand the pressure of the activity. Again, business resilience is that the business is strong enough to stand up against that pressure. So they're really quite powerful terms that they're being used there. The last one I wanted to look at, some words, robust and holistic. Robust means strong. It's a very formal word for resilient, robust. They're very similar words actually. So your robust procedures will ensure you have business resilience. But holistic. Holistic's a little bit different. If it's a word you've not used but you're not familiar with, holistic means in its whole. So not only is it strong, but it covers everything. All of the different aspects. It is an overall procedure. So a robust and holistic operational procedure is strong and covers everything it needs to. Robust and holistic. And that actually brings me into the one point I did want to talk about. In this formal conversation that BHP had, that Rio Tinto had, and I followed suit, did you notice a pattern of a language that was being highlighted? And I'm going to point it out to you. We also depend on obtaining and maintaining access. Global efforts to halt and reverse nature loss. Our commitment to understanding and mitigating the risks. But has this met the objective of eliminating or reducing environmental harm? Can you see that there's a lot of repetition or patterning? Obtaining and maintaining access, halting and reversing nature loss, understanding and mitigating the risks. Now, in this case, we don't say obtaining access and maintaining access. That would be wordy. It doesn't flow very well. Obtaining and maintaining access. But can you see it's also a bit sequential? We obtain access before we can maintain access. So we get before we keep our access. Halt and reverse nature loss. We stop it before we undo it. Global efforts to halt and reverse nature loss. Our commitment to understanding and mitigating risks. Understanding before we prevent them. So they're all very much sequential. The first step before the second step, the objective. But has this met the objective of reducing or eliminating environmental harm? We have to start with reducing before we can hope to eliminate. And you will find this kind of language in emotive topics, topics that have quite a bit of emotional meaning to them. And protecting the environment is quite an emotive topic. So that's a pattern that you can use as well to bring another sense of depth to your speaking.